Dinner hasn't even been laid on the table yet, and we are done and dusted yet again. My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We mentioned at the very start that for New Zealand to try and turn things around and become from bridesmaids to the bride, they need to have that killer instinct. And we reckon that's one of the factors, or one of the corners that they may have turned. I've got my experts in the studio, Harsha Bhogle and Zaheer Khan. Harsha, you reckon that this is a kind of clinical performance that really they've been looking for? 16.1 overs, 10-wicket win.
It is, but since you said the dinner has not yet been laid out, that's for you and me. But the very disciplined Zach has got it all set with his diet already. Dinners in the boxes, all laid out with calorie counts, all put over there. So he's not worried about dinner. Yes, it was very, very disappointing. I mean, I look at Pakistan and I say, okay, they've got a few players there who can say, right, we'll lift them. I'm looking at the Sri Lankan side. What are they thinking in their change room now? Who's going to lift us from here? It's 136. I mean, what, they made only 136 and they've lost in 16 overs. I mean, this World Cup was meant to eliminate one-sided matches, and we've had 3 in 3.
We certainly have 136 all out, and I think keep an eye on the figures on the right as well. 29.2 overs is what Sri Lanka batted after being put in, and New Zealand 16.1. So in fact,
twice in 2 days.
We haven't had 50 overs.
We haven't had 50 overs in the entire
combined
match. We haven't had an innings in the entire match, twice in 2 overs. Now, is this batting ineptitude? Or is it that the bowling has been that good?
I think the batting certainly has not been up to the standard. You know, they've not figured out a way of adapting to the conditions. When you have surface of offering help to bowlers, you know, you have to find a way of adapting. You know, just the other game which is going on right now, you know, the Afghanistan Australia. Afghanistan batsmen looked like they were trying to adjust. You know, they were not rushed. They were not playing the format. You know, they were not chasing a number. I think what's important for batting first teams to do is not chase that number. Of having 60 runs on board in first 10 overs or having 90 runs by 15-16 overs. You know, you just got to play it out. Like you have to set a platform. You know, that first 20 overs are going to be the most crucial ones. When the ball is hard, seam is prominent, 2 new balls now, so that makes it that much easier for bowlers to make use of it, even though this white kookaburra ball has not been that helpful for fast bowlers, but still, you know, you can make use of the conditions. The effect of that lasts a bit longer. So it's important that most of the batting units, you know, they sit, they see what's happening in the other games, and they understand that, okay, you know, this World Cup, the conditions are going to have a role to play. So respect that. I think, you know, once they start respecting the conditions, then you'll see a different kind of games being played. So I think even though we've had 2 disappointing games, the one-sided games, not up to the standard of the World Cup kind of games, but it's got nothing to do with how the teams have played. You know, it's about the conditions and adapting to the conditions, which was missing from the teams.
I mean, we've had 3 Asian teams that have won the World Cup, right? India, Pakistan, Sri Lanka. We've seen Pakistan today, we've seen Sri Lanka today. Afghanistan have lost 3, but they're struggling their way through. They're up against one of the best bowling sides. I want to see now how Bangladesh play against South Africa tomorrow, who themselves were at the receiving end of a one-sided encounter. I had said, you know, and my sample size is too small. I had said at the start of the tournament, this could be the T20ization of a 50-over World Cup. What I meant was there could be 340, 350, 360 scores, meaning you're batting in 50 overs like a long 20-over game. I think the opposite is happening on the evidence of what we've seen so far, in that teams are not batting well enough. So they're actually losing wickets too early.
So the definition is becoming T20ization, meaning we are only going to bat 20 overs or a bit more.
Yeah, I mean, look at this, 16 overs, 20 overs, 22 overs. Yeah.
As you said, it's the mental side of things, that 99 template to be brought back, because if you have a look at the batting in patches, you said it earlier, Thisara Pereira, Kusal Pereira, they showed what is capable. Karunartne showed hanging around what's possible. And of course, the chasing sides, both West Indies and today New Zealand. If you can win in 16.1 and have no wickets down, it shows that you can pretty much bat on that surface if you do the right things.
Exactly. So first and foremost, if you're batting first, you got to think of batting 50 overs. So rather than thinking that, okay, we're going to have 300, 340 or 280, you just got to first have your first aim's got to be bat the 50 overs. For that you need wickets in hand. So once you start approaching the game in that fashion, runs come because of the field restrictions. There are enough restrictions on the bowlers. So once you are in, then things start to ease out. That's what I've seen over the years in cricket and in the other game. The example of the Australia-Pakistan game is also to the same lines. I mean, how many runs they've scored in 15, 16 overs? About 60 runs.
Yeah, they're 73 for 3, Afghanistan, 73 for 3 in 18 overs at the moment.
Yeah, so they're going close to say 4 runs per over.
Yeah.
So you just got to stick with the same kind of run rate till about 30-35 overs. If you have more wickets in hand, you can accelerate from there on in. If you have lost more wickets, even if you continue with that, you're going to get to say 200, 220 runs. And that, with conditions backing, might turn out to be a good score, or you will have some kind of competition. Which you got to put some kind of pressure as well. You've seen with New Zealand batsmen today, when they came out, they're just going looking to alter that length. Now imagine if they have another 100 runs, if Sri Lanka has another 100 runs, if 220, 230 kind of score, New Zealand batsmen won't be able to do that. It's just that knowing that the target is 136, they can afford to take those extra risks, and that's something which is always been the case in cricket.
Test matches in England start at 11 o'clock. These games are starting at 10:30. Yeah. I mean, if some of you didn't know that 11 o'clock, at 11:30 we have lunch in a test match in India. But they start at 11. 10:30 starts? By English standards, it's an early start. Could that be a reason? Could that be a factor at all?
That means teams batting first and the day game, you have to be careful for that first hour.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Could that be?
There will be extra help for sure. I mean, the condition, again, if in England, if overhead conditions are overcast, then you can't really do much. Yeah. But suddenly the game, the wicket plays differently. That's something which is a given. So that's something which I think all the teams need to remind themselves of. And go by that.
So pedigreed batting sides should play better, because it's been very disappointing from 2 batting sides so far.
But also you've got to say that Zaheer Khan briefly mentioned, it's one thing whether you're looking overhead or whether you're looking at the surface, it could be green, whatever the colour it might be, you've still got to take advantage with good bowling. And New Zealand had their bowling depth, and I think that's something we haven't touched enough on. You've got Trent Bolt, and we talked about it at the start of the show, it's all going to be Bolt, Bolt's going to be the man for you. Bolt didn't have his best day out, and yet they had their backup bowling, which was outstanding in Matt Henry and then later Lockie Ferguson.
Yeah, it's interesting that I thought if there's one bowler in the world who'll swing a cricket ball any day, that would be Trent Bolt. And Henry was getting a bit of shape away from the right-handers, but Bolt wasn't getting any swing at all. But you're right, there's Matt Henry, decent pace, movement, Trent Bolt, swing bowler, Ferguson, out-and-out quick bowler, Colin de Grandhomme, that niggly, irritating kind of pace, but moving it around. So they've got those 4, which seem perfect for these conditions. And Santner came, I mean, 2 overs? It only lasted that long, so you can't read too much more into that.
It's amazing how everyone describes it that way. I've heard Harsha say it, we heard it on commentary. Every time you hear about Colin de Grandhomme, it's only words like irritating, annoying, and there's something about that pace.
But he's taken, in test matches, he's taken 4, 5, 6 wickets as well. So when the conditions are right, he's just doing that much. So
if conditions are helping fast bowlers, or there is a little bit of sea movement around, especially these bowlers who we call it say dibbly-dobbly bowlers, they'll always trouble the batsman, because as batsman you have to make the play. You won't have any pace to play with. So that means you have to get to the pitch of the ball, and usually these kind of bowlers, they'll have their length way shorter than what you're expecting. And that's why you saw someone like Matthews as well. He was standing outside the crease, about a feet outside the crease, so that he can generate that kind of pace. If the distance for the ball to travel till the time it reaches you as a batsman is less, that means you are making the bowler quicker. He's that slow. So that's something which always works, particularly when there is lateral movement available.
An interesting stat, we had this World Cup start with a bit of a googly, literally and otherwise, thrown by the South African captain Faf du Plessis by bringing Imran Tahir on. But after that, between that game and today, we had a 61 over drought when no spinner bowled a ball until Mitch Santner came into bowl
Is that
today.
true? They haven't had a single over spin because the batting...
For 61 overs.
Because the batting just got over so quickly.
And of course, we had the Pakistan-West Indies game, which was all about seam.
Yes.
And then you had the
In fact,
start
I
of this-
thought in that Pakistan game they should have brought Shadab Khan earlier just to check out how the West Indies are against...
Or Hafiz against Gale
That's
to
an
start with.
interesting one. From that game, it's taken that long. Okay, there you go. There's one other thing I think will happen after this. First of all, I'm worried for Sri Lanka from here because there's been so much turmoil in Sri Lankan cricket. We've mentioned how many players they've used, how many captains they've changed. There's been selection committee changes, there've been administrative changes, all kinds of changes. It's a team that's unsettled in turmoil. Now, for them to get out of a defeat as difficult as this, it's going to require tremendous character. They've got to keep looking to that test series in South Africa because no one expected them to win that. But if they come out of this and start to trouble teams, it'll be a magnificent achievement.
It certainly will be. And that's, as you said, test of character. It's got to be that mental aspect. We saw the captain was looking confident at the toss. He's set the example with bat in hand. Now he'll have to turn around in the dressing room and say, listen, I made runs out there. All of you didn't. And if we can put runs on the board, we've got the bowling to do it. Today we didn't have enough runs.
Staying together is the most important thing to do, particularly when you have such a loss. You just got to go back and stay positive, look for those positives. Bowling, I wouldn't get too much into bowling on a day like this because they never really had the platform. So that's something which Sri Lankan bowlers should be talking about. The batsman side, so the batsmen have to look at each other and have those discussions around that what kind of approach they should have, what kind of options they have, and the most important thing is to play the time. It's very important that your test caliber batsman, which is Mendes and the captain, has to approach it in that fashion where they just look at this whole batting as playing that anchor role. So they need to play the time. Your Pereiras and both the Pereiras, in fact, Kushal Perera and Thisara Perera can be the aggressor of the batting unit, and rest of the guys rally around them and get to a total, because that's the most important thing. If they win the toss, they're going to look to bowl first. That's going to at times simplify things. So that's another way of approaching the situation, that okay, next time we play the match, we're going to look to bat second. So the situation and the score is going to decide how we are going to go about our chase. So once again, in this World Cup, I think most of the teams will not want to bat first. It doesn't matter what kind of wicket they are playing on. They'll like to just wait and watch, see how it's going, and then decide the approach.
We've all got so bedazzled by 20 overs cricket that I think the message from what Zach just said for both Pakistan and Sri Lanka is bat time. 50 is a lot of overs. We know in T20 cricket that 120 is a lot of deliveries. We are learning every day that 120 is more than we thought it was, especially because of what we now know you can do in the last 4 or 5 overs. Where's 120, where's 300? 300 is a lot of deliveries. It's almost, in comparison, like playing a test match innings. So, but that I think you'll find as it goes along, the advantage with this being a longish World Cup is people will see what's happening and keep adapting as they go along.
Oh, interesting comment also from the Sri Lankan captain after the game. He said, people are coming to see lots of entertainment, and hence I'm looking forward to more batting-friendly surfaces.
But he's a batsman, isn't he? He's a batsman, isn't he? I mean, you look at his own bowling figures. His lead bowler, Malinga, went for 46 in 5 overs. So, I mean, his bowlers couldn't do much either. So batting-friendly surfaces, they'll struggle. Look at that. Lakmal, 4 overs, 28. Udana, 3 overs, 24. But it was good to see Udana, actually. There's a bit of pace. There was a time when he was only bowling back of the hand, slower balls. So it's... But really, I mean, you look at those figures, what are you saying? There's nothing there.
But for starters, if that kind of statement has come from the captain, it's not a great sign, going forward for Sri Lankan team, because you are blaming conditions. I think this is not the game where you should be blaming conditions. This is the conditions you have no excuses with. You have to live with that. So if you take this kind of approach and this kind of route, it'll just get worse and worse. I mean, the next loss possibly in the similar kind of conditions, you'll again go and say that, oh, the wickets need to be better. It's about introspection than going on blaming the conditions or the factors which are not in your control. You much rather have control over things. Ask your batsmen to take more responsibility. Ask them the right questions in terms of what you would have done differently in these kind of scenarios. If you've been put again, which the chances of them being in the similar kind of situation is high, because they still got eight more games to go.
True. Karunaratne also said that as after you get set, it's easier to bat, and the part-timers come on, it's easier to get runs against them. So just get set first. So I think we'll see more of that as we go.
He got set himself. I mean, you could blame the conditions if you come across, say, an underprepared wicket and a team is shot out because of the surface. But when it's been shot out because you've just not applied yourself or the rest of the team haven't, then you've got no excuse. And certainly when it comes to the opposition, we talk about entertainment. Well, sometimes entertainment helps your my 11 circle team, because it can be batting heavy. It can be batting heavy. You might have had Matt Henry giving you points. You might have had Lockie Ferguson giving you points. But the my 11 circle most valuable player, with his 73 of 51, helped by those boundaries give you some good bonus points, was Martin Guptill. And I know it was almost a formality, but still, it was a matter of asserting yourself, first game, and the net run rate. We talked about it.
Net run rate is going to be big. I keep saying that again and again. I've been saying that right through the IPL as well. People watching Cricbuzz live might think, oh, there he goes again, like a stuck record. But you see, net run rate did become important. So that was a big factor. They needed to get these runs quickly. But given you've only got 136, what can you do? You come back 73 not out. That's fantastic. The last thing you want is to make 18 and out or something. 73 not out. He'll be very happy with what he's done.
And at the other end, of course, a good partnership. I mean, they fed off each other. We saw Munro going aggressive early, Guptill held back. And then once both got set, okay, they said, it's the party. Let's go and finish.
I think the plan was very clear. It was in the mid-innings break, they must have discussed, okay, what are the lengths bowler will be looking to bowl, what are the areas which are difficult for batsmen to score or difficult to deal with. And they tried to alter that. That's something which we had seen from someone like Brandon McCullum in the past, where he uses his feet, put the pressure on the bowlers, then the bowlers alter the length and things gets easier for batsmen. That's what we got to see today.
Because that graphic, isn't it? Where did Sri Lanka face and where did New Zealand face?
So that is something which they did smartly. And Sri Lankan bowlers, even though it's 136, you look at that bowling economy of all the bowlers, they had accepted the defeat. Even though we shouldn't go after the bowlers right now, but it looked like that. And these are the things Sri Lankan team needs to figure out going forward in the remaining of the campaign.
I mean, if New Zealand were 136 for 5 in 35 overs, Sri Lanka will go back and say, you know what, I think we did a few things right today. We got something to build on. This is like what happened to Pakistan. What do we build on?
Exactly. Even though they lost wickets, that was only because they were just going hard at everything. So again, nothing much for them to read into. But when it comes to the My 11 Circle team, you've got to be smart if you're playing against somebody like Sourav Ganguly, who's got a great cricketing brain. He thinks about it. So he's been the one selecting the team, and all of you out there had to beat him. And Prakash Gorasia managed to get 361.5 points, and I suspect a lot of that was due to smart selection, because remember, you can obviously select your team after the toss. Yeah. You know that if they're selecting a small team, a small total rather, you may not have the middle order, the lower order. So Ross Taylor may not be the best choice in the world for this particular game. Rather, you have to get your openers in.
I'll tell you one other thing about all these fantasy leagues. Me and Zach can keep quiet, because between the two of us, we would have played a little bit of fantasy league. Gautam eats, sleeps, drinks, breathes fantasy league cricket. Even when we're going on, he's up there on his apps, because with every run the odds change. So you tell us what's the best way to play as.
I'm just going to say one thing to that. Dada, watch out. Dada ka vada, if it's 5 times more, I'm coming your way. I don't have enough time to make my changes in the team because we're on the show. And Prakash certainly had lots of time to make his changes, but I'm going to come and get him one of these days. But yeah, it's fun to have smart selection for different kinds of situations. Same thing. If New Zealand batting first, you know you've got to get your Ross Taylors and Kane Williamsons in for sure. Right.
Okay.
I'm not going to give away any more strategies there, but some of it is pretty obvious. What about Afghanistan Australia? Interesting. Both of you have mentioned it.
Yeah.
Yes, maybe losing wickets. Firstly, we talked about it briefly. They actually decided to bat first after winning the toss, and Australia said they would have done the same thing. But 77 for 4 after
fact, they've
20,
lost
not
one more
ideal
since.
that one more wicket that they've lost, but at least
They've
they
lost
seem
one
to be
more
hanging
since. They're
in there.
5 down now. They've lost one more since, yeah.
And the key wicket, I think Rahmat Shah was someone who was very important for them, and he's going to be important for them right throughout the campaign of World Cup for Afghanistan. If he is scoring consistently, other batsmen can rally around him. Nabi batting at number 5 is something which shows which shows that Afghanistan doesn't have the depth in that batting order. Going forward for them, I think they are going to need that 1 or 2 batsmen, because I keep talking about that, like that 250, 270 runs. If they get to that, any team will be in trouble. Doesn't matter what kind of conditions they are playing in. So in Bristol also, both the captains, even though Afghanistan had won the toss and decided to bat, Finch also wanted to bat first, and they're saying that the top layer of the surface is not that solid, which if the spinners come into play for Afghanistan, whatever runs they score, I think they will be able to put up a fight. Is what I feel. 4 wickets is too many. I like the intent shown by all the batsmen so far, barring the openers, because they are the hard-hitting batsmen. They're going to go after bowling. But maybe in English conditions for Afghanistan going forward in this World Cup, they can look at altering that. They can have someone steady openers and push Shehzad down the order. Let him play the similar kind of role of going after the bowling.
But once it's settled,
maybe
even Zazai maybe. It's an interesting thought.
I mean, I'm looking at this 85 for 5 in 21 overs. I hope we don't get another 120, 130 all out. But if that happens, that 3 teams, that's not good for the World Cup. They'll only get better as they get used to the conditions. They'll get better and better as they go along. Certainly, I hope they will. But it's not good for the World Cup if you have teams getting bowled out 120, 130 all the time.
Yes. Of course, there's another big game on the Sunday that we have to look forward to, and it's going to be interesting dynamics there. We talked about the remaining Asian team. That's going to be Bangladesh before India, of course, are up. And interestingly, India's first game will be against South Africa, who by then will be into their 3rd game. But let's keep that aside for later. Bangladesh versus South Africa coming off that first match loss. What will Bangladesh firstly read into South Africa's performance before they
I think if Bangladesh has been watching it the same way that Zach has been watching, the same way that all of us have been watching, in case they are put in case they have to bat first, they'll say, just let it be, don't worry. Let's just go out and let's try and get 230, let's try and get 240. And in doing that, if we can get 270, 280, that's okay, but let's build around the vast experience that exists in that team. There's a lot of experience there. Maybe they can leave Soumya Sarkar to attack, but they've got Tamim Iqbal, Shakib Al Hasan, Mushfiqur Rahim, Mahmudullah. That's a lot of experience in the top 5 or 6. So that is how I think they'll go about. Mohammad Mithun is a good batsman too, but you look down those top 5. There's a lot of experience there, and I'm sure they're already thinking about how to approach that situation.
Yep, those 3 wicketkeeper batsmen. Liton Das has been informed coming into the tournament. Tamim Iqbal leads the way. Mahmudullah, of course, is there. We've mentioned all these names without talking about the world number 1 all-rounder for so long, Shakib Al Hasan. So again,
the other interesting thing is I think that game's at the Oval, isn't it? That game's at the Oval.
It is.
So Oval is traditionally a good bounce. So I wonder South Africa will want to come back and come hard at Bangladesh with bounce. Still no Dale Steyn, but they still got Rabada and Ngidi.
Yeah, so that's one of the things. South Africa's lesson in reverse. Now they'll be looking at that squad over there. That's the players who played.
Well, when you look at the squad, you just know that this squad has the potential. This squad has the potential to create that kind of impact. It's just about getting things together and getting those few wins under your belt. Because you have Rabada, you have Tahir, you have Ngidi, and you know that that attack is potent. Just about and batting. There is enough experience in that lineup. We'll have to see how Amla has recovered from that concussion scare which he had. So whether he's going to be available for tomorrow's match or no. But if even if he is missing a game or 2, I think that South Africa batting lineup has got enough potential to put runs on board. So I think looking at tomorrow's game, you would expect that South Africa are favourites, And looking at that bowling attack, you'll see a lot of short balls and bouncers and bumpers. That will certainly be a strategy.
You made a valid point about Hashim Amla. I think Faf might have said it, that when he walked off, he said it was a bit all over the place in the dressing room. Now, you don't want that for one of your lead batsmen. Also, there'll be the psychological factor that he was late on a bouncer, he was very late on the bouncer. But they want him to get back into form quickly because that batting order, it needs Amla firing at the top.
Again, with no disrespect, long tournament, this is where it gives you a chance to recover. And maybe this is a game that you can say that, okay, this is not a bad game for you to be sitting out.
It's also a call you have to take because remember, if you seek a replacement, you've lost the player. You can't get a replacement for 3 games and go back to the original player. Because once you seek a replacement, the player that you've got is gone, unless he comes back as a replacement for some other player.
Correct.
So they've got to be very careful about the replacements.
One more factor is, one of the regrets Faf du Plessis said after that England game was that maybe they played one too many all-rounder. A lot of talk about why a frontline bowler like Steyn was not playing, for example. So one reckons, will they learn from that and just go hard? Even Chris Morris missed out?
Yeah, so that might be the possible change in place of Pretorius.
Yeah, he was just medium
Chris
pace.
Morris might.
Morris might be quicker.
When Pretorius was the one who might just
will
miss
be
out.
handy with the bat as well. So that's the only possible change, and Amla's fitness. Apart from that, I don't think you will see any other changes. Tabraiz Shamsi not against Bangladesh. You know, maybe some other team they will think of bringing in 2 wrist spinners.
Steyn's still not an option, so obviously that's the only change we can see. David Miller might be the likely replacement for Hashim Amla if he doesn't play.
Yeah.
And again, a word on the person who not enough people know a lot about, and I had the privilege of watching a lot of him in the Caribbean Premier League, and highly impressive, Razzie van der Dusen.
And he batted well the other day.
He did, batted really well
against England.
And again, it was more his temperament than the fact that he was getting runs. He was in Chris Gale's franchise, and you know, with Chris Gale's franchise, you'll get days when Gale just doesn't fire up the top. Evan Lewis as well was batting up there. So half the time he would come in at 20 for 3 when Gale was not firing, and he would contribute 50 or 60 every time.
And if Amla's not there, he'll get his number 3 position because they'll open with Markram and Quinton de Kock. They'll have Van der Dusen at 3 and then David Miller down at 6. So that'll be the change. But he looked a good player. So he was one of the positives that came out of that game.
And from Bangladesh's point of view, obviously, we've talked about their strength in batting, but they've got a nice little bowling unit together. Maybe not as reliant on spin as they've been in past World Cups, but the reason for that is because they've got people like Mustafizur, Abu Jayed, Rubel as frontline quick bowlers, and I think Mohammad Saifuddin also very, very impressive as an all-round fast bowling option.
Yes, and the conditions will certainly help them as well. And Musharfi has been very good with using his resources. So that's something which will always be the case. He's got experience of Shakib Al Hasan also to just play that 2-3 overs. Sometimes he's bowled with the new ball as well, which you've seen from Faf also using that spinner. So you might see Shakib also being used tactically in few scenarios and situations. But apart from that, I think the main winners for Bangladesh are always going to be Mushfiqur and Tamim and Shakib playing those crucial, Mahmudullah playing those crucial knocks to set it up for the team.
And of course, I actually had Mehdi Hassan as the sort of spin bowling all-rounder batting at 8. But I wonder if they'll want to leave him out and play Saifuddin in that place.
Having seen what's happened so far.
Because they already have Shakib, they have Musaddiq, they have Mahmudullah in the top 7. So I wonder if they'll go with Saifuddin instead of Mehdi Hassan. Or whether they regard Mehdi Hassan as a lead spinner. That's their.
And of course, in all this, we probably mentioned 10 out of 11. I don't think we mentioned the captain at all. We talked about their fast bowlers. I think I mentioned their whole attack and forgot that a certain gentleman by the name of Mashrafi Mortaza is a fast bowler and he's actually leading the side.
I'll tell you what I liked in the warm-up game against India was the fizz. Mustafizur is back to bowling well. He was bowling good lines. He was bowling in the mid-130s. He wasn't only bowling those slow balls. So I think he's a big part of that attack because Mashrafi Mortaza now is really a backup bowler now. He's the captain and a backup bowler. So who's going to be their quick bowler? Is it Abu Jayed? Is it Rubel? Because they will play Mustafizur.
Yep. Well, it's not just Mashrafi Mortaza and Faf du Plessis who will have a headache come tomorrow. It's all of you who need to have a few headaches. My 11 circle, this is how you need to actually get your team together. Simply get on to my11circle.com, download the app, and you need to play against Sourav Ganguly. Create your own team first, of course. Get your captain, get your vice captain, and Dada Kavada is that if you can beat him, as someone did today, you will get 5 times the amount of what you put out there. So that's a wonderful incentive for you, but you just have to play smart on that one. We also gave you a little bit of head scratching for you to do with today's joy factor question. It was an interesting one. So let's just remind you of what the question was for a start. We had a couple of Sri Lankans in there. Sanat Jayasuriya leading in ODIs. Tilakratne Dilshan in T20 internationals. Which player is at the top of the same list in Test match cricket? So let's first give you the answer. I like the smile that Joy has on his face when he gives you one of these. Good one. Courtney Walsh, the most ducks in Test match cricket. I can tell you I was completely stumped by that one. I think this picture specially kept for the more stumpy kind of questions he had, because you're thinking of Dilshan, you're thinking of Jayasuriya, you're thinking batting lists.
I'm thinking batting, I'm thinking maybe the odd all-rounder something, maybe,
Maybe number of sixes.
I was
going on number of
boundaries
sixes.
and sixes.
Boundaries and sixes. I was thinking along those lines. I had no clue. And this is not one of those things you can quickly get on search engines.
One thing that all three have in common, though, is all three were hugely entertaining batsmen.
Yes.
Jayasuriya, Dilshan and Courtney Walsh.
And all three
were very entertaining batsmen.
And they looked after their bats as well. You were telling us a story.
Wasim was telling the story of how Courtney Walsh lost his bat and insisted that the Commissioner of Police find his bat back for him because it had the right balance. And Wasim said, "Main to gir gaya." He said, "I'll give you a new one." He said, "No, that had the right balance." And needless to say, he got a pair in the game.
And all I remember of Courtney Walsh is how he used to leave the deliveries.
Correct. Yeah.
And literally go towards the bowler.
Oh, he had the best leave in the world, for sure. It was wonderful.
Tell you, this game has lost a lot with number 11s learning how to bat.
Absolutely. I mean, you could make a list of the likes of Devon Malcolm and Chris Martin.
It all started with one partnership where number 11 outscored Tendulkar in a last wicket partnership.
I was there on the boundary line. I was there on the boundary line.
The world had changed.
75 of the very best.
140 something, 130, 140 something? Yeah. That's when I knew times had changed completely, that number 11 was no longer number 11. Number 11s are not supposed to sit as experts in commentary boxes either. So.
But the trouble, Harsha, is every time, even in a peripheral reference, we've brought that up, we've never got anything but modesty out of Zach.
I mean, you scored 75.
Leggy got me out, yeah.
But you outscored Tendulkar in the partnership. Were you taking the strike of the 5th ball?
Me? No.
Did you change your bat during the innings?
No.
You just had the one bat?
Yeah.
Just had the one bat. So that's what he doesn't have in common with Courtney Walsh. Fine, in all that excitement.
I missed the 100. That's all I remember.
That's all. At least that. Yeah, we were waiting for that one there. So somebody actually was a winner in this one. It was a toughie. And who was it who got that answer? Vaibhav Gulati, and a thumbs up from Joy and from all of us at the rate VG 30th August. Have you just given away your birthday? Well, when it comes around to 30th August, we'll wish you a very happy birthday. Just an assumption that it probably was his birthday. So that's pretty much all the time we have. Just a final word on Sri Lanka versus
I'd love to see them come back.
New Zealand.
I'd love to see Sri Lanka come back because they owe it to their fans. Their fans are incredible. Both Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, they have incredible fans following them. And I think they owe it. I read a lovely article by Andrew Fernando saying what cricket means to Sri Lanka. It's a country that's been through a lot of strife recently. It's a lovely island that was just coming back. And on its way back, it's just been struck again. And cricket was something that could have brought them a lot of cheer. So for reasons outside the World Cup as well, I want Sri Lanka to get their act together and give some cheer to their supporters. There's 8 games, so come on Sri Lanka, let's see a little bit more from you.
And final word from the fast bowler, we want the batsmen to score more runs batting first.
No, we want bowlers to continue the way they are. It's finally getting that balance. How many? I keep going back to that number of 48 times 300 plus scores have been achieved in the last 4 years, so that's a staggering number. It has to even out at some stage.
It has to.
And England, I think, is providing that platform for all the bowlers to come back at the batsman and level it out.
Just add the number of overs in the 2 games that we've had so far between Pakistan and Sri Lanka. Though the 2 games Pakistan and Sri Lanka played, I think you'll find it's around 80 overs, which is what you get in 2 T20 games.
There you go. That's I think sending quite a message out there. But the Zaheer Khan, who outscored Sachin Tendulkar in that partnership in Bangladesh, has come crashing back to being Zaheer Khan, the fast bowler, because he wants the bowlers to continue to dominate. And why not? If you get a chance, if you get the conditions, make full use of it. Batsmen will have to try that much harder. That's all we have. Thank you very much, Zaheer Khan, Harsha Bhogle. We'll see you again as we look at Sunday with Bangladesh taking on South Africa at the Oval. My 11th Circle presents Cricbuzz Live. We'll be back.